Well, that was an intro of little fanfare. Hello everyone and welcome to Let's Play Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game. This is a sequel to that one TMNT game we played, I think it was a year or two ago now. The one that has the damn level that everyone hates. And we have a Turtle Select right off the bat. Unlike Turtles in Time, and I think even TMNT 3, there's no real difference between them aside from graphics, so I'm just going to go with my favorite Donatello. Scene 1, fire. We gotta get April out. Now, while TMNT 1, I believe, was just an original game, TMNT 2 onwards, as the name implies, started just porting the arcade games to systems. So we have what is arcade TMNT 2, a beat-em-up, rather than a platformer. Starting off, control-wise, your turtles do not have much range at all. In fact, as I mentioned, they don't have any real difference aside from graphics in the NES version. Every turtle has about 3 or 4 attacks. You got the 1, 2, I think even a 3-hit combo just by mashing the B button. You have the jump kick, which you do from high in your jump, and that's going to be your best friend for avoiding certain attacks. And then you got that little attack I just did right there, which is a bit of a jump slash, which you do by pressing the jump button and then immediately press the B button. That is your most powerful attack in the game. I think it does double the damage of a standard 1-2 combo attack. The jump kick is more powerful than that as well, but you also have to keep in mind combo stuff. Most enemies in this game, though, are going to die in 2 hits. At least here in the early stage, where we got the various kinds of Foot Clan only. Also, hello outright Pizza Hut product placement. For instance, purple foot soldiers don't really have much special to them at all. They just like to jump kick at you occasionally, and that's about it. The blue ones we saw a moment ago have knives they can either stab you with or throw at you, so you have some projectile attacks to worry about right off the bat. Being a beat-em-up, there are ways to get extra lives based off of your score. In this game's case, it is every 200 points. The problem with that is, every enemy only gives you 1 point. So that's 200 enemies per, which is roughly every 2 to 3 stages, with the way the game's stages usually have enemies. Similar to TMNT 4, though, at least the Super Nintendo version, there's not too many differences from the arcade version, barring some added stages and I think some minor bosses were changed as well. I'll be going over those as the time comes. For right now, my best advice is to either jump kick everything or jump slash everything. Your normal 1-2 combo has its uses, particularly for stunning enemies away from you or getting bosses stunned for very short periods of time, might I add. But overall, you don't have to worry about too much here. The biggest thing is that I think the health can be a bit sparse because, like TMNT 4, there are pizzas in the game that restore your health. However, they're very sparse throughout the game. In fact, I think the first one isn't until the end of stage 2, maybe stage 3, I forget. This game's a bit weird with how I had to record it and how the checkpoints work. Bosses are checkpoints for one thing. But some stages, or scenes, as we saw with the fire gotta help April out thing a few moments ago, some scenes are divided into 2 stages. And that's a bit odd to me, honestly, just because I don't see much reason as for why that is. We do have our next unique enemy here, though, Roadkill Rodneys, I believe these things are called. These things run around in a figure-8 pattern of sorts, and they can either shoot a laser at you, or if you hit them, they're likely to counter with a little electric tentacle of their own. We also, I think, saw the White Foot Clan a moment ago, which have swords that act almost exactly like the knives, only they can't throw them. They're more likely to do jump attacks, though, I think. Stunning Roadkill Rodneys is probably the best thing you can do in terms of fighting them, because, well, rather, the best strategy for them is to attack them so constantly when they get back up after being damaged that you can stunlock them. And here's definitely the Whitefoot Soldier clans if I didn't, Whitefoot Clan soldiers if I didn't show them earlier. And here's red ones. The red ones are probably some of the most annoying ones in that they have some of the most range. Their main attack is a gun. But for right now, it's time for our first boss, good old Rocksteady, who is packing heat. Now, the bosses in TMNT 2 have a bit too much health for my liking, especially for the first boss. In terms of Rocksteady's attacks, he'll either kick you if you're right next to him. It's basically him trying to counter getting attacked. He has his gun, which you can either fire straight forward or aim in the air if you're jumping, which is his way of trying to counter that. And he also has a bit of a shoulder charge attack that he does every so often that he's invincible during, and he directly homes into you on it. He has pretty good homing, too. Essentially, if you're not at the very top of the screen or very bottom of the screen when he starts it, and by that I mean the top or bottom of the screen where he is, you're probably going to get hit by it. The best strategy for boss fights that I try not to do too much in the early portion of the game, but I end up just accepting that it's the best way to fight bosses in the game later on, is jump kicking a lot. Jump kick, pass through them and pass them, jump again, and then do another one directly back at them. Essentially, almost going in a butterfly shape around them. Like with other beat-em-ups we've played through over the years, the closer an enemy with an invisible HP bar is to death, the more flashy they get. A game I actually recently did this too, because I recently played The Messenger for myself, and that was a really good game. Scene 2. Come on, after that shredder creep. I love this song. In fact, I will say this game overall has a really good soundtrack. Although I think overall it is a bit samey. And I don't mean samey as in like it all sounds the same. I mean more so, almost every track in the game tries to incorporate the TMNT main riff, the Heroes in a Half Shell Turtle Power bit. And while that's cool and all, I mean, hell, look at Mario World. That game's soundtrack's basically on one melody, but it sounds fantastic. It's just one of those things that it sounds a bit worse to do that on an NES sound chip, I guess is what I want to say. Alright, you want to be careful of whenever you see manhole covers in these stages. This stage in particular is probably one of the most prevalent, though. Because, yeah, Foot Soldier will jump out of it and throw the lid at you, but the hole counts as a hazard. If you try to fall into it, you fall into it, and I think whatever turtle you're playing as goes lights out and such. Now, Purple Foot Clan soldiers are also probably the most varied in the game, because we saw the jump kicking ones last stage, but there's also some that have dynamite, which are inconsistent. I think they only show up in like 2 or 3 stages. Hey, there's the first pizza. Yeah, early stage 2 is where it shows up. Unlike certain beat-em-ups, which has various amounts of food items that restore your health in various amounts, a pizza in this game is the only recovery item you get, and it counts as a full life recovery. Be careful of random citizens like that. They don't show up too much throughout the game. I can only think of maybe 3 stages where hazards like that even remotely exist. But they do damage you if you touch them, so watch out. Yellow Foot Clan soldiers are probably my least favorite in the game. They are boomerang users. If they're too far away, they'll throw a boomerang at you that will come back to them. Not only does that give them, I want to say, the most speedy projectile, because it is a pretty fast boomerang, but you're also probably going to get hit no matter what in that case. Well, not no matter what. You're more likely to get hit. You can shoot them out of the sky with whatever your weapon is, but say you jump over the boomerang and then you jump kick into them, if you defeat the Foot Clan soldier in doing that, the boomerang is going to hit you because you took out the target that was going to catch it. If you miss the Foot Clan soldier, you're going to get hit. If you hit the Foot Clan soldier but don't kill them, you're going to get hit. The boomerang soldiers are the most annoying standard enemies in the game. Thankfully, they're not the most common. I want to say out of the game's 7 total scenes, they're maybe only in 3 or 4 of the stages within those. Now, I was tempted to get Scott to do multiplayer for this, but then I realized this game's life system is already pretty limited as it is. You get 2 lives and 3 continues, and that's it. And I think if you get a game over, you have to start over from the most recent checkpoint, which is usually the start of a stage, so I didn't want to put him through that. I'll probably get him for TMNT 3, though, just because, hey, that's a better game. But it's time for the boss of stage 2. It's Bebop, who is like Rocksteady, only he's both more and less aggressive. He loves to do the shoulder tackle quite a bit more often. He also still has the little kick attack, it's a punch in his case when you're too close to him and he's trying to counter you. His biggest annoyance is that I think he tries to shoot his gun a bit more often if you're farther away. Plus, his gun is a bit wider. It's more of a sonic wave kind of weapon that is just wider and harder to jump over. And I will openly admit, I had to have the wiki open to remember which one is Rocksteady and Bebop. I've always had that issue for some reason, and I don't know why. It's not like I didn't grow up with TMNT. We had a VHS, the old series. I watched the 2003 series quite a bit when I was a kid. I watched the Power Rangers TMNT episode a bit more than I'd like to admit from In Space. And I do like the 2012 series, but I just never memorized it. Although, now that I think about it, there's a mnemonic device for it, isn't there? Bebop the Boar, Rocksteady the Rhino. I'm 21 going on 22 and I'm only just now noticing that. Holy shit. But yeah, Rocksteady, he's a bit more aggressive than Bebop, but overall it's almost essentially the same boss. And time for stage 3. Time to go back to the sewers, but thankfully we don't have a Rat King to face. This stage does have one weird annoyance, though, and that it's where we start to see stage hazards get a bit more introduction, but we'll talk more about that in a moment. This is also your best friend if you want to make the game a bit easier. We also now, again, I think this is supposed to be like magenta, that might be burgundy, I forget color names at the moment. Now, they got sledgehammers that are slow, but you don't have to worry too much about them. One thing I haven't checked out too much, though, is the new TMNT series. I think it's like Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I love the way that show looks. I love the character designs. And I love the way it's animated, because I've seen a lot of the fight scenes, and those are great. But I haven't watched too much of it to get a solid opinion. Otherwise, I think the one shortcoming I have with it, from what I've seen, is that from the early episodes I've seen, which is very little, the Turtles seem like they're a bit too samey in personality. Like, yeah, they have their underlying traits still there, but beyond that, they're all still the party dude, and I think they use that a bit too much as their personality. Either way, next enemy we got is Mousers, who I think are the lowest amount of HP, the weakest enemy in the game, not the lowest amount of HP, Kyle. Use your grammar. They are a bit annoying, though, in that they have a bit of a stun attack they can do, and I think if there's more than one next to you, they can get some good stun on you if they do that in a row. Overall, though, not too hard. They do like to spawn like 3 or 4 at a time, though. The game doesn't like to spam too many enemies at you at a time, though. Usually, they like to keep it in waves of 2 to 3 at a time. Like, you've seen it already, even. In the first stage, when the first 2 foot soldiers spawn, another one doesn't spawn in until you kill one of them. Which, you know, I'm glad they're good about that, but I'm wondering how much that was because of difficulty balance and how much that was just due to what the NES could potentially handle, because even as it is, with as few sprites there can be on the screen, the game will still have some flicker issues in some stages. Alright, here's an annoying stage hazard. Whenever there's little things like this that go diagonal across the floor plane, you need to be careful about them because their hitbox covers the entire sprite. And that can be annoying because it doesn't keep in mind how deep you are into the field. TMNT 4 would when it came to that, but this game doesn't keep in mind that as much. It's weird to think, though, there's not too many games that are outright beat-em-ups on the NES like this, are there? Like, there's the Double Dragon games I can think of. There was that one Splatterhouse game that I think was only ever released in Japan. There's this, TMNT 3. And not many others come to mind in terms of pure beat-em-ups that were, you know, actual beat-em-ups and not some weird NES bad fighting game. I guess there was also Crocodile Dundee, now that I think about it. Boss for stage 3, though, is Baxter Stockman in his human form, and he is absurdly weak to the jump kick because it's the most reliable way to hit him because he's in the air all the time. However, this fight does have a hidden bonus to it. Baxter Stockman's only attack, from my memory, is spawning Mousers. And he spawns them infinitely. If you want to get some good extra lives built up, you can just stay in this fight for a good bit and just grind up kills on the Mousers. Like, I just got my first extra life there for the first 200 kills. But you could just stay here for a while and do that. I wouldn't recommend it, but it's there. If you do it, though, the most I'd recommend is maybe going up to 5 lives, and that's a bit extreme. 4 is probably what I would do. He also doesn't have too much HP, thankfully, just given his aerial nature. But with that, I'm going to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 2, we're going to head into scene 3. See you guys then.